Hey, well, I was cutting some vegetables and getting vegetables ready to cook, and I was just washing these mushrooms because they looked a little dirty, and I thought, this might be a good time to do another little talk. Just trying to get the extra little dirt off these. Yeah, and there aren't many of these, so this will only take a minute. And then on to the peppers and onions. You know what I notice when I go online on websites and videos or comment sections? Want to know what I can see very often, and I think it is a good thing. People love to talk about the future. Yeah. Oh look, another sloth. Yeah, talking about the future. Sharing what they think is going to happen in the future, even though it hasn't happened yet. But things that are coming up on the calendar, things that are happening now, and what they could mean. The latest news and the latest things happening with other people they know. Yeah. So, the long-term future and the short-term. Yeah. You know, I have a little story about the first time that I remember actually trying to think about the future, and another person who said something that made me stop and think and wonder to myself, ooh, I might be wrong. So I was young. How young was I? Maybe 11, 12, maybe. And I was at a summer camp. A week-long summer camp, and it was on it was part of a little small town college campus. So there were the dormitories that the college students weren't using, and so that's where the families who went to this camp to go and stay for the week and do activities on the campus while all of the college students are at home on summer break. But we did many of the fun summer things, like make tie-dye t-shirts, sing songs, learn lessons, make friends. And in one of the buildings where we would sometimes go after lunch just to digest our food and settle down, there was an activity room for the kids to play in and socialize. And in the activity room there were a big table of Legos for us to build stuff and play and use our imagination. And that was my favorite thing to do. So whenever the teacher or the camp counselor and the instructors would bring us to the activity room to spend some time. There was a small group of maybe 3 or 4 of us boys who would all run to the Lego table and start playing with the Legos. So now on the Lego table there were a couple of the plates, the flat plates that had the road design. They had the streets with the 2 lanes and the center line, and they connected, so you could build a road with buildings and drive cars up and down it. But the problem was, we had the roads, and there were some pieces to, of course, make cars. But the problem with the cars is there were only maybe 3 sets of wheels, 3 or 4. So we could only make about 4 cars. And, you know, there were 3 or 4 of us boys, and we were like, hey, let's try to make as many cars as we can on this road. So I came up with the idea of, okay, well, you know what? We only have 3 cars that have actual wheels and they can go up and down the road, so how do we make more cars? Well, let's make them into hovercrafts. Okay, they don't have wheels. That's right, they float. And they hover. And one of the other students, or, kids in the camp was like, oh, that's a good idea. So me and him, we started building cars without wheels on it, and it turns out, all you need is, a flat piece and maybe some blocks, and then you stick a person on it and just call it a hovercraft. Hey, look, now they're on the road and they don't need wheels, and we can build tons of these. So then, we were building those and putting them on the Lego road, and then another kid comes over, says, hey, can I play Legos? And we're like, okay, yeah, we're building cars and putting them on the road. And this other kid says, where the heck are the wheels? And so I explained to them, oh, well, we don't have enough wheels, so they're hovercrafts, like from the future. They can hover on the road, they don't need wheels. And this little boy, same age as me, said, how do you know that's in the future? And I stopped. And I said, well, there are cartoons and shows that have hovercrafts, and they're from the future. And just like these Lego cars. And the kid said back to me, you don't know they'll be here in the future. In the future, all of this could be nothing. Yeah. So I remember that moment because it was the first time someone my age taught me a lesson. That was the first time. Because normally, being a little kid, when you learn lessons, they come from adults and grown-ups and people who are older. And when you think of your peers and your friends and other people your age, at least for me, I saw all of us as equals, all learning the same lessons, going through the same stuff, just getting through classes, getting through summer camp, and getting through life. And so there I was, playing at a table with other kids, making Lego hovercraft cars. And then one little boy made me stop and think. You know, I don't know what's in the future. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe he's right. Well, it turns out I think both of us, me and that other boy, I think we're both right. Because, well, we do have hovercrafts, just not on the roads. So that was a summer camp lesson from someone my age, and it's a true story. Now, I'll tell you a lesson I learned one summer from a grown-up. Not just any grown-up. It was my dad. So, one summer, my dad got rented a little camper to tow around because he had a pickup truck. So, one weekend on a summer, he got the camper, hooked it up to the truck, and took us all camping one weekend. And I was a little bit older than I was when I was at the summer camp with the Legos and the other little boy. This was a few years later, so I was a bit older. And I wasn't just older, I was also to put it simply, I was more of a handful. Because I was at that age when kids start to transition. So while we were camping, there were other people in the camp, and being a teenager around that time, I had a little bit of a mouth on me, and I said something to another person that was very mean. And my dad found out. And I got in trouble. And I deserve it for what I said. It was very mean, and I don't care to repeat it. So the next day, my dad took me on a canoe, just me and him. We got the paddles and hopped in the canoe. I wore a life jacket, and we just set the canoe out to the big lake and at the middle of the camp. And I remember my arms getting sore, like, before we were even in the middle of the water. Like, just, just after a couple of minutes paddling, like, my arms were done. Like, oh my gosh. I was just a little teen trying to still, get figure out how strong I was, and, put me in a canoe with a paddle and I'll start paddling. But, I didn't know much about how to pace myself, and that, how to use proper technique, and just basically my arms got tired real fast and I couldn't paddle anymore. And so my dad was doing all the paddling from that point on. And when we got to the middle of the lake, and it was very, very quiet and peaceful, he said to me, "The other day, what you said, don't ever say that again." And I haven't. I was a handful, as the old people describe it. Yeah. And I have come to learn that having to be a dad well, it really is like a circle. I can only picture in my mind maybe times when my father would have his dad teach him a lesson of right and wrong. And then my dad, when the time is right, or when he has to pass down that lesson to me. And then it becomes my turn to pass that lesson down. So in a way, when us parents, when us dads are teaching a lesson, part of it is teaching, because that is part of our job. Part of it is also passing down. When you're a little kid and you are sitting through a lesson, for you, it's a lesson. You sit there and take it. But now I'm the dad. And it's different to be the one sharing that lesson. Because it's not just teaching, it's also passing down. Want to know something else that I figured out along the way of being a dad? Because when I became a dad, I did not know everything and just know it and have it and then do it like a computer. I have to figure it out and learn it as I go. Something else I learned was a lot of the scenes in movies or television that involve parents. And I don't mean the humorous scenes where, a parent is doing something silly and the kids point and laugh, or a sad scene. What I mean are the little nuances, the little parts of a scene that you don't normally see or notice, or that are just, you figure, this is nothing. Like, I didn't even notice. I didn't even pay attention. But I see them now as an adult. And one of them is whenever a little one is sleeping in bed and the parent comes in to check on the little one, well, the parent always takes the blanket and pulls it up over the shoulder of the little one. And that is true. And we do that. So as a kid, seeing that, I just figure, from the kid's perspective, I'm sleeping. Just, oh, okay, well, that's nice. You pulled the blanket over my shoulder while I'm sleeping, but I'm sleeping. I don't know the difference. I'm dreaming. And, when I wake up, I'll have no idea. But now I'm the parent, and I see that. And it's true. We do that. And now, whenever I see it in a movie or on a TV show, I notice it. And another thing. Well, this one is not so much from a movie or a TV show, but this one is, well, this will make more and more sense to you the older that you get. Want to know what it is? We, and I mean us parents, we pay attention to what you eat. And I don't mean paying attention as in telling you what you can and can't eat and saying, hey, I see you eating that, hey, that's for after dinner. No, I don't mean that. What I mean is we observe and store in our short-term memory, kind of like RAM in a computer. We store what you eat in a day, or maybe over 2 days. And the reason we do that is because we are mindful about whether or not you are getting enough to eat. Now, let me rinse this off. Want to know where that comes from? I can only speak for me, but when you were a little tiny baby, I fed you all of your meals. And because I was a brand new parent, not knowing how much to feed you, how often to feed you, what to feed you, what's too much. Could I overfeed you? If I overfeed you, will you get sick? These are all questions that I had to learn and figure out on my own. So part of my way of learning and figuring it out is to write down everything. When I feed you, what I feed you, how much, and how much time in between your feedings. And a lot of this is normal and helpful, especially for the doctors and nurses, in order to see, is this baby getting enough? Is this baby not getting enough? Is there something else that the nurses and the doctors need to do? So for me, keeping track of all of that, it was about helping the doctors and nurses just in case you weren't getting enough to eat, and if we needed help. And I kept doing that for years. And that's because of the fact that it became a habit, a very easy habit to keep track of for me, and one that I felt was very important. And at the same time, I enjoyed it. And it was fulfilling to make sure that you are getting enough to eat. So I tell you that in order to tell you this. You know that how now you're a little bit older. And guess what? You want to know a question parents still will ask you even though you're a little older than being a little baby. We still ask you, are you eating enough? Yeah. Yeah, I was a grown up, still hearing it from my mother, actually. One of her questions, hey, are you eating enough? Yeah. So I used to think, why are you asking me this? Like, is it a habit? No, are you asking me because you worry? The answer is yes, and yes. And I understand it. And it has taken me my whole life, even up to this point, to understand that. It is not just an annoying question. It is something that is very deeply ingrained into us. Me. Should I add these? Yeah, why not? There are things that you will learn along the way. It is not possible, nor is it fair, to expect you to know everything right this moment, or at the moment when you might be asked. It's like, hey, do you know this? It is okay to say, I don't know. It is okay to say that. The day that I became a parent, I didn't know everything. But I am still working on trying to learn. Every day. And it will take me the rest of my life to try and learn as much as I can. And I won't know everything. But I will not stop trying. Here's a lesson for me. You won't understand this now, but someday you might. Raising you is more than providing and teaching and even protecting. Those are all only parts of it. It is also about setting an example. And that takes an entire lifetime. It doesn't take a lifetime to learn. It takes a lifetime to show. Love you.